User stories, I've been writing them for about a decade, have done it in multiple ways, but followed different formats. Uh, Everywhere I go, wherever, whatever company I join, they have their own way of doing this. Uh, so I may not have a definitive answer for this question, but I've recently joined Sasta Ticket, and the first thing that I was asked to do was to follow a standard template to write user story, and really liked that approach. And there are many benefits to this approach, which is using a standard format. One is easy to write for a product manager. So even as a product manager, I have many ways of thinking depending on the problem. So if I am not using a standard format, I would waste a lot of time in writing user stories. If I have a standard format, it will be easier for me and require less time every time I have to write a user story docs. The other thing is stakeholders. So obviously, user story doc is for not just for the product manager, but all the stakeholders in the company. And if they are receiving user story in different formats, it would require cognitive effort on their side to process it, and obviously that would be unnecessary waste of their time as well. So I think following a standard template is important. It doesn't have to be a specific template, because obviously every company may have their needs more or less. Uh, so it's not important to follow a certain template that is provided by a certain company or a person. But what is really important, a key message here, is to use the same format. I'm not advocating for it, obviously, because I do not have answer to everything or advice that would be applicable for everyone. But I think this seems to be working for us. So we usually write, not usually, we every time we write user stories on Confluence. That's the standard procedure. We don't have to put any thoughts on it. If you go on Confluence, you can find multiple templates available here, already used by many big companies. So you don't have to create your own template. This is the one we have shortlisted at Sasta Ticket, where we have to write vision of the feature, whatever we are proposing. We have to back it up by research and validation, then write goals and non-goals, success metrics, that how we would determine the success of whatever we are proposing. Then high level user stories and wireframe. So we would be able to keep the end in mind, because when you go deep down in user stories, you tend to sometimes forget what we are aiming for. So high level allows you to have a bigger picture. And then lastly, you would dig down on detailed user stories, write user story and acceptance criteria. And one another thing that I liked is that every user story will have a link, Figma link, uh, on Confluence. This would allow anyone reading it uh, to check the relevant design as well. Because if you do not link a Figma link to a user story, what happens usually is that people do not understand that how it would look in design. So you have to follow design separately, and this is what I think found really helpful. It's a small thing, but if you add a Figma link to each user story, you would know that you have covered the whole flow. So this is the standard format that we follow, and it seems to be working really well for us. Again, the message is not that you have to follow this specific format, but the message is to follow or agree on a specific format, and then every team member should follow the format, which really helps in the end. At least it's helping us. It's just a ticket. Do share your feedback. Thank you for listening.